Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today we are going to discuss mental restraints, which I think is going to be a kick-butt show. And our guest today is a brother of mine, JD. JD, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate you coming in and filling this spot. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, again, I love being here, and I miss being here, and seeing kind of an opportunity in a window, and so took it.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad that you did. You know, and for those of you that are new watching our show, JD was a guest of ours, gosh, probably almost a year ago.
Yeah, it was the end of last year as your co-host for a while.
Yeah,
so.
And then he came in as our guest co-host, and we really enjoyed having JD here with us, and you know, life events and to take over, which they do for all of us, and he had to pull away, as sad as it was, and so yeah, definitely you've been missed. So it's good to see you back in the studio here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And we have another guy that came in today, Mike. Mike, Thank you for coming in and being the guest co-host today.
Well, you're welcome, Al. Good to be here.
Yeah. So I hit Mike up, and those who watch our shows, you probably saw Mike's show come out just a couple of weeks ago when it came out. Yeah, we talked a lot on mental health and different things like that, and I ran into Mike at the gym. We usually see each other at the gym, and I'm like, hey, would you be up for coming in and being a guest co-host? He's like,
sure.
Yeah, I think
Sounds
I'm
like
available. Yeah, and it should be fun. It should be a really good show. Yeah. So, mental restraints. Oh my gosh, JD. You and I, we were saying right before the show, you and I have gone through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that we've gone through has been similar, right? And you gave me a call yesterday, and we were talking about some stuff, and I got really excited what we were talking about, because I'm like, this show is just going to be phenomenal. It's really going to kick butt. And what really adds to it too is having Mike here, because you know, Mike is a retired psychologist, basically, or therapist, psychiatrist.
So I have an MD from the University of Utah.
Yeah.
So I spent several years up there, about a decade and a half on the faculty at the university, and then I've done a variety of other things since then.
Very nice.
So we have a professional here that's going to help us out, right?
Well, we'll see about that.
We'll see about that. And also, Mike, you're working on a book too, right?
I am, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've titled it Shrink Fit, A Psychiatrist's Guide to Life Fitness.
I love it.
So it's not addressing specific mental illnesses, but it's talking about how to approach life generally, how to maintain good health and resiliency as we go through life. And I really like the idea of resiliency, which you talk a lot about here.
Yeah.
I think that's such an important concept. And there are ways that we can enhance our resiliency as we go through life. So, I don't know, hope to talk about that some more at some point, but still a work in progress. Not quite ready for prime time yet, but hopefully soon.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really good book, and it's something that, like you said, I really do believe with where the world has gone right now, all of us can use that right now. You know, I mean...
I hope so. I mean, there are some good thoughts out there. I don't know if you ever listen to Jordan Peterson and people like that, but you know, there's some smart thinkers out there.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's a little controversial what they have to say, but there are some good thoughts being stirred by some of these people.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can add to that discussion.
Well, and you will. I know that you will, because the show that we did with you was just kick butt. I mean, it really was.
Thanks.
And you know, we had Robert Scott Bell on the show a couple of weeks ago, and his show just aired this past Monday. And he talks a lot about health and different things, and this guy is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to the right type of minerals and supplements and different things that our body needs, and how our foods have been depleted of it. And I don't know if a lot of people realize mental health, it's part of our health, right? That's why they call it mental health. I mean, because if we're not right up here, it can actually destroy everything that's inside here. I know people where I've watched them where they've had a very stressful life and a lot of chaos going on, and I've watched their health just slowly but surely just start depleting. So...
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting interconnections between what goes on in our brain, in our mind, and what goes on in the rest of our body. Maybe a quick example of that. There's a type of white blood cell called a natural killer cell. Sounds pretty ominous, but that's the name of the cell. If someone is depressed versus someone who's not depressed, if you look at how that white blood cell responds to an antigen, an infection, when a person is depressed, it just kind of meanders over there about half speed. So the person who's depressed is probably not going to have a good immune response when they get an infection, and the infection likely will go on longer. Or another example is people who have, a heart attack. If they are also depressed, they have a much higher risk of mortality from that heart attack, even though the same anatomy in the heart is affected compared to someone who doesn't have depression.
Wow.
So it really does have a big impact. And I think, we're still learning a lot about the interrelationship between what goes on in our mind and what goes on in the rest of the body. But for so long, the mind and mental health and mental issues were separated from the rest of the body, not scientifically, but the way insurance companies and other organizations dealt with it. But that's not reality. I mean, the mind is part of who we are and part of our whole physical makeup, and you can't separate it like that. There's been a lot of controversy over the years between insurance companies and psychiatrists and other doctors and patients. Insurance companies have been reluctant to really step up and pay what they're supposed to pay, and laws have been passed to try to address that. I read something the other day restating that insurance companies who don't do what they're supposed to do are going to be subject to some penalties for not recognizing the reality that an illness in the mind is like an illness in the kidney or the heart or the lungs or something else. It deserves to be covered.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
So
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's my curiosity has spiked quite a bit on this. So JD, what had you come up with the mental restraints? I mean, I know just a little bit because you and I spoke on the phone, but for our listeners, I mean, why did you come up with that?
Well, the biggest thing with mental restraints is just going through life, like as addressing the elephant in the room side of things. As I told you a little bit about situations and stuff that have gone on since I left the show, and obviously I went out of state for work. Which didn't pan out, and just so you have a clarity, so I've done door-to-door sales, and I was doing solar sales and that, and a company I was working with here ended up not working out as well as I'd hoped. I'd been with them for a while, but I went out and vetted a couple other companies, and I went out to California, and some guys were making pretty decent money, and so I was like, hey, I'll go do it, and left my family here, everything, went out to go give it a shot, and I get out there and I just see that it doesn't float with me with my morale, my integrity, the way they were doing things. And so I came back home frustrated because spending money on that trip, and then I vetted another company that's based in Lehigh, but they wanted me to go to Southern California, so I was like, all right, I'll give this another shot, and I applied for a field manager position because I'm almost like done with the sell side of things. Mm-hmm. So I get out there, and they have a house the company owns or whatever out there and stuff. So I get out there expected to meet this team, and I'm the only one there. And so they're like, hey, go out, knock doors, sell some solar, and get yourself paid. And I was like, this isn't what I signed up for, but I was like, hey, well, I'm here. I'm going to try to make the best of it while I got it. Anyways, guys show up a few days later, and that I'm supposed to be working with, and they eat half my groceries that I bought for me to be there for the time being while I get things figured out back and forth between here and Utah. And I was like, I'm dealing with a bunch of children. Like, I'm not here to babysit either, like I'm here to, let's get a job done. And so it's just one of those things of being told one thing in that smoke screen and people trying to paint this vision or this dream to get you to move forward, right? Because just wanting that break, that I've been chasing that, like, I know it's there, but it's just trying to find where it fits, I guess. Yeah. Like, I know the value I bring to the table and what I've done for companies and what I've done for businesses, and it's like, I know where my lane is at to do things and be successful, and it's like, either Sales Rabbit, for example, I applied for one of their positions, and I emailed them back because they emailed me the thing of, hey, we've decided a different candidate, And so I emailed the lady and like not trying to be like rude, but I was like, what was it? Was there something wrong? Did I not type up the resume right? And she's like, actually, sir, you're overqualified. I was like, oh,
I've never
cool.
understood that term.
Overqualified?
Yeah. Who the hell came up with overqualified? I'd really like to know.
I was like, cool, well, how about then you give me the position that I'm qualified for then? Let's make one of those happen. But so frustrations. But anyways, so I came back from Victorville, California. In that time, I have a buddy that also knew another guy that owned a solar company. And so I flew out to Texas, Humble, Texas, and went out there to check out their operation and see if I couldn't do something. Well, they essentially wanted me to help build this business and recruit and train people. But the only time I got paid is if I sold something personally in that time being. I was like, that's not how this works. Like, do all this work for free and pray for payout? Like, this is like gambling. Like, you know, and I got a better shot at counting cards than I do freaking doing this. So, you know, so long story short, I came home, and I decided to kind of take a pitch of different turn. And this guy that owns a plumbing company, he'd been trying to get me to come teach him sales and the process of building value. And he'd been going back and forth for a while, and I was just like, I don't know, like, you're not going to call me into being a plumber. Like, I'm letting you know right now, I'm not a plumber. Like, I'm happy to help you do work. I'm not afraid to get dirty. I'm mechanically inclined.
Sure.
So background, I've got construction background, but that's not where
It's not where you
I
want
want
to
to go. Definitely not.
You don't want to be a plumber's crack, right?
No, you know, like again, I'm not above helping out and doing
Right.
any of that. You know, I helped install water heaters. I mean, I cleaned out sewer lines, did all of it. I was just in the rut with it. But my goal, and it was like, you're not pushing me to go to school, be an apprentice, and become a journeyman plumber. Like, I'm sorry, a different vision for both of us. This is not how that goes. And I mean, we were very clear on where I stood and where he stood, and my job was simply to come in and help him grow revenue. That's what we did. And so we agreed on pay and everything, and things started rocking. From the time I came in at the end of February till the day that he let me go on August 7th, I grew his company 271%. So
Good. Wow.
a very big achievement for where it was at.
Mm-hmm.
The issue was, and whatever mental block challenge was there, it seemed like at that moment my whole life fell apart too. Again, because I felt like I had something that was consistent. Things were starting to grow back again. I wasn't stressed out and having to work. We were working a lot, but I mean, prior to that, going out and doing Uber and doing different things on top of what I was doing just to make ends meet. And so income comes to a straight stop. And a couple days before that, I had a procedure done. And let's just say the procedure makes it so you can't have any more children. So
I've had that same procedure, yeah.
if any, I got to go on this.
TMI, maybe?
Yeah, TMI. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
no,
we don't
so-
hold anything back on this show.
Yeah, it's but anyway, so I have a procedure done, and so he shows up at my house on Sunday, and he called me, and he's like, hey, I want to take your truck in and trade it in for a smaller, a van for servicing. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll just come and grab your other truck and continue on our way. He's like, oh, I think that's not good for company policy. I was like, what are you talking about? Anyways, he decided that he's let me go. And the real story was that he wasn't trading that truck in. So he was just trying to make up some roundabout excuses.
Yeah.
So anyways, he had an apprentice too that worked with him and another guy, and he cut us all out of the picture on a Sunday. So shows up at my house to pick up my truck, because I had a company truck. And I made him go in and tell my wife that I did nothing wrong. And he did, and my wife was like, and he was like, I didn't know. And she's like, how'd you not know? Like, this is your company. And so, I mean, obviously I lost sleep over because I felt like I did something wrong, and I was trying to figure out what it was. And so, I mean, I asked him pretty just like black and white, look, if you got a problem, like, tell me. If I did something wrong, just tell me. Like, I don't, if things are over, which they are, like, I'm a big boy and I can take the criticism, you know? He's like, no, he just simply just didn't want to, the money wasn't important to him like that. Like, it just was one of those things he wanted to be able to do a few jobs a week and be home with his family, which is fine. Like, if that's what your goals and visions have changed after you got the taste of what we built, that's fine, and I can get behind that. But, like, your decisions consequently affect me, my wife, and my kids.
Sure.
Yeah.
On an agreement. So a few days after that, on August 11th, I actually had knee surgery. And back that up to July, my son had a compound fracture, broke his arm, 2 plates, 12 screws.
Oh,
So
great. How old's your son?
So he'll be 14 on the 27th. So on-board accident. But fast forward again, back to August 11th, I had knee surgery for a torn meniscus. While they were in there, they found out I had a fractured femur. And so that put me down, but I didn't have a choice because my income had stopped, essentially. So I hit up a company that I'd worked for before doing exterior construction and bidding. And so I was like, okay, well, jump back in and do sales for him, door to door, and people that need roofs or siding or anything. And so literally after surgery, where I should have been taking it easy, I was back on the doors that following Monday, trying to make something happen. And so in the process of trying to make this stuff happen, I'm hobbling up and down the street, just felt like at a moment just ultimately defeated. Well, falling behind on bills, that happened pretty quick because income stream wasn't as consistent and quick as, it was. And then so I started Ubering, and Uber's up and down too, Mm-hmm. So I'm working every single day. Typically I'll go out and Uber in the morning. Even now with working with where I'm at, this roofing company that I've made changes with, I've got jobs in the pipeline, but it seems like the pay isn't. So like if the job gets installed on November 1st, for example, I wouldn't get paid until the second Friday of the following month, so December. So there's a waiting process. So it's like building things up. And where I go with this mental block is the fact of going through these struggles, making decisions, based on, do I pay this bill, which may seem irresponsible, or do I feed my kids? Which one's going to win? And at the end of the day, it's the kids are going to win.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think going through these challenges and feeling like losing everything or getting into a spot like we're having to move out of our house, which sucks, and making changes that way, which will be better long term, but they're very hard to choke and swallow because I'm the main provider. My wife doesn't work; she takes care of the kids. I've been that this whole time.
You have how many kids?
So I got a total of 5.
Okay.
So 2 with my wife now and 3 with a previous marriage. And
Got your hands full.
Got my hands full, but I've been dedicated and I've worked my butt off to make sure that my wife could be home with the kids because, no offense on this, and I love my wife, but we've looked at it and ran the numbers, and if she went and worked, essentially most of her paycheck would go to childcare anyways.
Yeah, because it's expensive.
So
get out.
So
unless you're a grandparent.
Unless you're a grandparent. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And we don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So with that and that's fine. It's something, again, willing to accept, but it's I'd much rather my kids be raised here with us than also to the crazy stuff that you hear that's going on in the world too.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of things that go into consideration.
Yeah.
But it's just overwhelming stress, and to go home and put a smile on the face. My daughter's birthday was in September. Didn't celebrate her birthday. We got her a couple small things, which it doesn't matter on that end. But it was feeling like the ultimate failure of not being able to do stuff for the ones that you love.
Yeah.
And yet have to bury that and not exhort that, because I can't put that out to my children, and I'm not going to do that. I've pushed my kids, especially my older ones, I want you to follow your dreams. I want to be an advocate to help wherever I can, in that aspect. And what am I too in the example of is we've talked my long-term goal is again to speak. I love speaking. I absolutely do. I've been in that spot where I've coached sales teams and leadership and that mindset development. It's I know the information and I have the information. I like to read, but I am personally at a point where that motivation and that roadblock in my life because of the elephant in the room of the financial stress and burden. It's all that stuff's great and I want to pursue it, and it's hey, take time, start a YouTube channel, hey, take time and do this. And in the process of trying to do all these things or wanting to do those things, I am in paralysis because that moment, it'll have a ROI long term, but does it solve what I absolutely need right this second, which is what I'm behind on? And so it causes me to be in this state of paralysis, essentially.
Yeah.
That's where the restraints are at, right?
Right. And getting through that block and stuff is it's very hard, And so
there's so many things that's been popping up in my head, JD, with you telling your story, and you and I have sat down before and had coffee and talked about our lives, what's been going on, and as during the depths of my wife's addiction, she wasn't working, she was in and out of rehabs, and if she did get a job, she was let go really quick because she was always drunk and couldn't really go into work, and all that financial burden was on my shoulders. And for someone who chose not to punch a clock, be part of the sheep, and it's no disrespect to anyone. So, please guys know that I'm not disrespecting. This is just my choices. I mean, we're all being heard on I-15 in the mornings and at night, basically, right? We're going off to our
And that's why
to our work, and you and I have kind of gone through the same thing, and Brad and I, on some of our trips that we've gone on together, we've had some of that male bonding and spoke a lot. So there's a lot of the same similarities here in this room. I worked for companies, especially with me being as active as I was with the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, and I got to know a ton of businesses, and that's how you and I met, was through networking, through that. And, when I left there was a lot of people that were, oh, hey, come and work for us, I'd go work for them and something new, and I'm like, hey, great, this is something new. I don't have to punch a clock. I get to kind of work my own hours. I get to do what I want to do. And you start helping these companies grow, and then it's like they get to a certain point, and it's like, I'm here to pick up the truck, It's like, okay, and it just kept happening over and over and over, just like what's been happening with you. And when the decision was made for me to even start talking, because you and I talked about that, would love to get into the public speaking and share our story and help people and do different things. And, I started doing that, and then COVID hit, put a stop to it. I had to dig down really, really deep and decide what was it that I really, really wanted to do. Because all this time, as I was going out there doing the same thing that you're doing right now and have been doing, I'm searching for my why. Basically, that's what I was doing. I'm searching for my why. What is my why? And I had people call me up, hey, come and work for me, and I'll train you how to be a financial advisor. I'll train you to help people with legal stuff or blah, blah. And it's like,
sell life insurance.
I want to help people. Yeah. Well, you are helping people. No, I don't want to help people. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
There's something different. And it was so confusing for me. I had that mental blockage as well, going, just what the heck is it that I'm going to do?
Al, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, just take a second and define for me what you mean by mental blockage or mental restraint.
The mental restraint is not knowing, again, my why. It's like JD said, you kind of hit that roadblock. I knew I wanted to do something that would help people, but what that was, I did not know. So it's like I was coming in, it's like some of those toys that you see that you wind up in a kid and it goes all over and hits the wall and bounces off and turns and goes somewhere else and then hits the wall and turns,
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. So that's how it felt like for me, that mental blockage. It's like, where is it that I really want to take this? What is it?
If I may, with that, and that's the same thing of feeling because of working with these different companies, or I like the family-owned business side of it, because it's like you feel like a place you belong. It's not a number situation, right? But being able to go in and do something and feel like you're doing good. But it's the same thing of being in sales. Like, I love it because of working with people, right? However, the flip side to that is, like, right now doing roofing and siding and stuff like that. Like, now I get in and I help people. They need a new roof. Cool. I'm able to help sell that for them and get that, make the company money, take care of their needs and prevent damages. Same thing with the plumbing. It was like, hey, your water heater went out. Cool. I'm doing you a service. Got you a water heater. Let's install it, kind of thing, doing a service. Now, I helped them. But at the end of the day, did I change their heart? That's where my mental...
change their life,
yeah. That's
helps to have a hot shower, though.
Yes, it does.
It does. Absolutely. It does. But when I leave that house, it's just a water heater, and I was the guy that came in and worked with the plumbing company that sold it. I may have been, that guy was really nice and cool and stuff, but like to be that, to feel that purpose, like, this may sound crazy on a level, but it's like, I know I'm here for a reason. I know there's a purpose behind it. And the reason why I'm out selling or out doing these things to work with people is because it's taught me to be from, what do you call it, be an introvert to an extrovert, or is it the other way?
Yeah, you got it.
Right? Yeah. So being that way, because, like, I used to, like, people, bye, kind of thing. And so, like, it's definitely changed where I've wanted to be able to be more that way. But it's, when I leave that person, like, I want to be able to be at a spot where I talked to them and I did something that clicked and it changed.
You know, you're stirring a lot of thoughts in my mind. Can I share a couple?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
First of all, we need to have integrity.
Absolutely.
So, JD, as you're describing this, you've had some experiences dealing with people who may have been a little short on integrity, the way they dealt with you. And I commend you for not letting that knock you out, but you just got on your way and did your work and found another job and went about your life. But it's unfortunate that that deficiency of integrity is impacting you directly and impacting society more generally. So that's one thought I had. The other thought I had is there is certainly no shame in doing a job, getting paid, and taking care of your family. Whatever legal means you have to do that, I think is commendable and respectable.
Oh, absolutely.
And the other thought I had is the concept of finding meaning in life, and that's actually a chapter in my book, is finding meaning. And I have recommended to many patients that they read the book written by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, yeah. That's a good book.
Have you read that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a really good book.
Viktor Frankl, he had the situation of being in Germany or Austria, I can't remember where he was living at the time, successful physician, and then Adolf Hitler came into power, and Frankl's...
Goosebumps already, because I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
his story changed, and all of a sudden he didn't have a lot of control over his external reality. Being Jewish, he was put in a concentration camp where he stayed alive for several years and fortunately survived that experience and went on to do some really remarkable things.
Yeah.
But what he noticed while he was in the concentration camp is that, well, first of all, he noticed a couple of things. There was a whole lot of just luck involved in who survived and who didn't. And some people who did everything right and were really good and honorable people didn't make it through that awful experience. The ones that survived, according to Frankl, were the ones that could find a sense of meaning. And I think it's interesting, in that environment, you wouldn't have any control of your external reality. You were subjected to the harsh reality of having, clothes that had been worn by several other prisoners before they were sent to the gas chambers, and you were just stripped of everything, literally. But those that can maintain a sense of meaning were more likely to survive. And the ones who said, I can't see any point in any of this, they didn't make it very long after that. They usually ended up dying shortly after that, either being shot by the guards or just dying. So I think meaning is a really important thing, and I think it's something that we all strive for in life. And I think we all have that anxiety or angst or discomfort trying to find where we fit into life and where we can make our best contribution. And I commend you for looking for something that satisfies you with that. But my observation in life is that yearning for meaning is built into most of us. And most of us maybe are not fully satisfied all the time. We don't always get all the way to that feeling like we have finally arrived and everything is just as we wanted it to be or had hoped it to be.
Right.
I think Viktor Frankl talked about finding meaning and that it's hard to pursue directly. Sometimes you pursue it by living a good life and your meaning comes into focus as life goes on.
Right.
And I think as your life goes on and as you live with integrity and as you take care of your family and other obligations, even if you're in a job that isn't totally satisfying, as the years unfold, you'll find that your meaning comes into focus a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was telling Al, is I
agree with
think
that.
going through this stuff, like, just being like honest and very frank. My kids are everything. My wife, my family, and everything that we've gone through, and to give you backstory, really, if I can, really quick.
Sure show, man.
But growing up, mom married, divorced. My dad gave me up for adoption when I was 9. Second dad she was with, her husband, had my 2 sisters. So I'm the oldest of 5 kids. He's an alcoholic, so there was that stirred in there. And then I was adopted by a guy where I took his name. So my name was Colton David Peck. It's now JD Greenhalgh. and go by JD because this guy's name was Jay. So that's how we separated the two.
Yeah, sure.
By the time I was 15 years old, he'd gotten into methamphetamine. And then shortly thereafter, my mom, she's, bless her heart, she's doing good now, but she did fall into a trap of opioids for a while. So at 17 years old, I was stuck with making decisions to help take care of my family as well. And in return and stuff, I grew up, knocked up my high school girlfriend at 18, 19 years old, had my son when I was 19. And it seemed like a life path of making hard decisions or good decisions, and obviously not so good. I had a lot of growing up to do too. I didn't know me from Adam at some points, but I knew one thing is that I didn't ever want to be like what my dad had done to me, kind of thing. And so going through this turmoil and then the drugs, the aspect of that, I watched it tear my family completely apart and destroy it. And instead of falling into the trap of like, oh well, they did it, and following and entertaining the idea, like I think that's why I never touched any of it, was because I was so angry. Like I was like, how could you allow this evil substance into you to destroy the amazing relationships we all had? Like my family, for like, it felt like 5 years we had this fairy tale family. We worked together, we played together, I did good academically. Like it was like this picture,
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely a growing stance, but then my own life took its own turn. And so I worked for different companies and stuff, and I've always had that entrepreneur spirit, I guess, too. Like, want to be able to build something and do something on my own. Yeah. But as things have come, and still fight for that aspect of life and wanting to do something bigger than myself. I think, like you mentioned, we all fight or we want to have that sense of meaning, right? And what we're doing has meaning as well. And I fought for that because I see the people around that have, settled for the job too, or have worked the job to pay the bills and stuff, which again, nobody's condemning, because that's good. Take care of, your responsibilities, and obviously
it works for them. It works for them, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it works for us too in the aspect of we have to get a job and do what we got to do to take care of our family. But it's like that consciousness of knowing and feeling that this can't be it. That like I want to go out and change lives of millions of people. Like, how am I doing that if I'm doing this? And I get, again, the coming down and humbling yourself to being what you're doing. And where I'm leading with this is going through the things that I've gone through since I left here, essentially, and trying to pursue something just to put my family in a better spot so I can pursue my goals and my dreams. When you get to that point of being so low and you're having to tell your wife, like, hey, we literally can't do this, we can't do that. Like, the birthday, we got to postpone. Yeah. Hey, do I pay the car payment, or do I pay for the formula that our son needs?
And it's hard and disgracing. Am I saying that right? Especially for us guys, right? Because we are the sole providers. Correct. We're here to take care of our kids or take care of our wife. And when we're to that point in our life where we feel like we can't meet those demands, it's very degrading for us. Man, it tears us up.
Right.
And the stress just continues to build on us.
And not feeling, again, like you have people that you can turn to and stuff, and for support, but everything comes from within of what needs to be done, essentially, right? So, but there comes a point where I felt like I just didn't have anybody in my corner. Like, even knowing that I do, it's like still feeling like you're alone. And again, as I told you, and I'm just going to be vulnerable here, like, I wouldn't act on it. I'm smart enough to know the consequences of certain actions, but the thought of taking my own life, and it would destroy everybody that I love.
Yeah.
But for myself internally, like, almost like the weight is so much of wanting that escape. Again, didn't grab the gun, didn't pull it in my, nothing like that. Yeah, I didn't even go to that extent, because I know the instant I feel like I got a pretty level head.
Man, if you would have done that, JD, without even calling and talking to me, buddy, I would have been pissing on your grave.
Right,
it would have pissed me off, right?
Right, right. Yeah. And so, like I said, again, I'm level-head enough to know, but it's like the thought of just having instant, like, it could be all done and gone. for myself, which would be
absolutely,
selfish, absolutely selfish. And that's, again, nothing that I would ever wish. And going through with my sister passing out, having her accident.
Yeah, because you guys were close.
Yeah, so so I understand. I mean, we've had a lot of people, sadly enough, in our lives and it's common around, and what the damage it does do.
Getting worse.
So
it's growing.
Yes.
So I just take it as this is one of those things in life, and I don't know if you're religious or not, in God aspect, but I'm like, this is a way of God and Christ testing me to see how well I maintain character.
Yeah.
So if I keep a good character, I wake up, I'll joke about it, like we talked about. I talked about possibly going to being a cop. The sheriff, Utah County Sheriff was hiring, right? And I just made a joke with my wife. She's like, "You're not going to be a cop." She's like, "You go out there and put yourself out, they get shot."
I said
like,
the same thing when West Jordan Police was hiring. I was joking around.
Well, I worked for the sheriff's department.
Yeah,
I did. That was my last job.
was it?
Not as a deputy, but as a psychiatrist at the county jail.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So-
So you with Mike Smith, right? Is that who? So Tony, I know a lot of the guys that are down there. So
Well,
just,
that's me, Mike Smith. But you know somebody else down there?
No, you're not the. No, who's the other guy? The guy that's the actual sheriff
For
Mike.
Salt Lake?
No, for
Oh,
Utah
it's
County.
Rosie.
Yeah,
Rivera,
it is
that's
Rosie. Yeah.
That's the sheriff. But there's Matt. We don't need to get on that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So again, knowing people down there, but we made the joke, trying to keep just things positive, right? So because they're obviously law enforcement starting to hire quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a joke and stuff because I had a buddy that worked on highway patrol, and my uncle was a cop for Provo City and stuff, and they talked about applying. Even I have friends, the chief of police for Payson City and stuff, and like, hey, we'll put you through, sponsor you, and all this stuff. Like, good opportunity. It'd be great, honestly. But I don't know if feeling like you get paid enough in the crazy times that we're going through right now. If my wife was like, no, you ain't putting yourself out like that. She's like, I don't want to have the stress of what's already going on in our world and our life. She's like, that's the last thing we need to add. I was like, hey, look, babe, positive note. I'll have a sheriff's SUV. We'll be living under the overpass, and no one will mess with us. And she's like, that's messed up. Like, making just light joke of it,
Yeah,
And so you have to make light of it. Like, my buddy calls me up, and he's like, how you doing? He just called to check in. I was like, good. Join some rock soup. It's delicious. He's like, there you go. Glass half full kind of thing, And so that's what we have to do, and that's what makes it. And then going to that, it's like a test of, can I maintain and be who I am still in my heart through the fact that I have this huge giant plate on my shoulders.
I'd like to stop for a commercial break, but when we come back, I'd really like to kind of throw some of my thoughts out on that, especially when you brought up the spiritual stuff, because you and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, and these things were going through my head, and And Mike can probably touch base on this a lot more because he has the expertise. I don't, except just my experiences.
That certainly counts.
However, I feel like I was my worst enemy. That's how I felt, and especially with all the self-help books that I've read. And God has placed so many incredible people in my life, especially the last year and a half to 2 years. I mean, incredible people. And there's been quite a few of them that have really got my wheels turning and got me really starting to think. And it's crazy. The ones who I've really looked up to, which I look up to all of them, but the ones that I've really, really looked up to, every single one of them have told me the same damn thing.
Right.
I'm my own worst enemy. I'm the one that's keeping me from going where I want to go, and where it comes down again to the mental restraints and the mental blockage, which you asked me that question on, that's where I had to finally stop and go, okay, I'm sick and tired of running into these freaking walls. What is it? What is it that I need to do? Just the answer's there. It's there. I'm just not seeing it because I'm so freaked out about everything else that's going on inside, in my world.
And with that, if I may add, just really quick before we go on break, is talking about those mental blocks with, consciously understanding it of what do I need to let go of to move forward. Like, am I holding something that I consciously can't think?
And I have an answer for that. I'm not saying it's your answer. It was my answer for me. So Guys, stay with us. When we come back, we're going to touch base on this a little bit further, and I think it's going to go pretty deep. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street. Or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account, and we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone, and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com. That's taffytown.com to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. Again, I am your host, Al Richards, and we have my brother from another mother, JD, here joining us as our guest today, and Mike as our guest co-host. So guys, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gosh, I was really enjoying where the first part of the show was going, and before we stopped for the commercial break, JD, you brought up like the spiritual thing, and with a lot of the stuff that I've gone through in my life, and especially in the depths of my wife's addiction, you know, I hit my knees many, many times, and I'm asking God, why? Why am I going through this? Why? You know, I asked that question. We said at the beginning, you know, I had to figure out what my why was, and but it was kind of in a different why. Why is this happening to me? I understand why now. And I mentioned there's probably a handful, half a dozen or so people who God has blessed me with and have put in my life that have really got my wheels turning and started thinking. And my spirituality, I think, has just really, really just exploded compared to where it used to be. I figured out how to take that religion and spirituality are two different things. That's just how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm like, okay, well, I'm LDS, our whole family is LDS, and there are things that I really like and there are things that I don't care for. And then having the spirituality and I've really been able to separate things just a little bit more. And it's really, really helped. And having that mental restraints and the mental blockage that I've had, I have really realized with the help of other people sitting down and talking to me, going, my gosh, I'm the one that's placing these roadblocks in front of me. It's not anyone else. And it's because of where my mind. Now, I don't know how many people out there are into like the law of attraction and knowing that everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy, right? I mean, every time we're thinking, our energy's going out. It's kind of crazy, and I'll just share something that just happened this past week. Is I got a good buddy who we met each other back in the 80s. We were at construction back in Colorado and ended up going to Phoenix, and we kind of lost track of one another, and we were able to hook back up. And I'm like, gosh, I haven't spoke to my buddy Jim for a while. I need to flip and give this guy a call. You know, it's been quite a few months since we've chatted. And of course, life takes over and you get busy and you're doing different things. And then you're like, oh, crap, I forgot to call. All right, tomorrow I'm going to call. And it's so freaking crazy because the other day I'm coming home, my phone rings, and guess who it is? It's Jim. It's like, well, my mind was thinking of him quite a bit. The way I see it, that energy went to him, and he's like, oh, I'm going to give him a call. And we sat and chatted for about a half hour. One thing that I learned, JD, is, and again, guys, this is just my own feelings, my own belief. I'm not saying that this is what everybody needs to do, because I'm just saying what's worked for me. I got out of my own way. I finally just hit my knees one morning and just said, God, you know, whatever I do, I'm not doing it right, because I seem to make a mess out of everything, or this always seems to happen, you know, which I've had the same thing like you, JD, where, you know, things are going really good and then the brakes are hit and you're going through the windshield again.
I feel like Coyote, you know, on the show when he runs into
Coyote.
the wall. Yeah,
stand on this X.
It looks like the tunnel, but it's actually the wall that's painted there.
Yeah, so I've had that happen so many times. And I finally just said, my life's yours. Seriously, my life's yours. You know, I'm tired of stressing out about bills. My wife's been in and out of work, you know, and some of it has to go back to where background, because of when she was at the depth of her addiction. You know, they get the background check that comes back, and now all of a sudden they can't hire her because something she did 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago, which I just don't understand why that's just a whole nother show. I'd love to chat on that one. Ever since I have just given my life up to me for my higher power, which is God, that's my higher power. Some people look at higher power differently, you know, whether it's a mountain or rock, or I had known of some guy that a goldfish was his higher power. Whatever works for you. God is my higher power. And when I gave my life over, my life has completely been changing. And it changes every single freaking week. And I just sit and I'm just literally, there's some nights I'm sitting on the couch and I probably look like one of those stoned couch potatoes where I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening, you know? And things financially, can they get better? Yes, they can definitely, which would take a lot of stress off of me. Well, no, let's say I don't have that stress. Let me rephrase that, because I don't have that stress anymore. It's like it's going to happen. I just got to have that faith and believe, and it's going to happen. So basically, all those blocks that I've had in my head, and all those why is this happening, or I can't understand why I'm doing this, and I'm busting my ass to be the best person I can be and have integrity, which we were talking about during the break. And it's like, I thought that's what you wanted from us, to give to other people, you know, do charity work and give to others. And I felt like I was doing all, but nothing was happening. Well, nothing was happening in my eyes is because I wasn't allowing it to happen. I was being my own block. And since I have been able to say, it's going to work out. I don't know how, but I'm not going to stress about it anymore.
Right.
And it has frickin' worked out every single time. And the pressure that it's taken off of me, for once, I feel like I'm not treading through 3 feet of mud anymore. It's like I'm just basically just walking on the ground and just allowing, I'm not getting caught up in the 3D of life right now. You know, I'm not letting this outside crap get to me. And I'm not saying it doesn't, because it still does. We're still human. You know, there's still some days I wake up and it may take me a half a day. Even, gosh, last week it took me a full day to finally open my eyes and going, holy shit, I'm in the mud again. I got to get myself out. And I climb myself right back out again. And again, I don't know if that's something that would help you, JD, and Mike. I know that, you know, you're a spiritual person, and knowing and understanding the brain and mental things and how it works. But that's a word I'm working on getting rid of, not the but. However, it has really, really changed my life, like 360 degrees. Before, when I had money that I know I have this bill I got to pay, and it's like, okay, I got to use this money to pay this bill, and it's like, oh, you know what? It's been a while since I've taken my wife out to dinner. I'm going to dinner.
Yeah.
And we go to dinner or go to breakfast. One of my favorite things to do is get up on a Sunday morning and go to breakfast. If I'm not on a hike or my wife goes to church or whatever, it's like we go to breakfast.
Yeah.
You know, and before I'm like, oh shit, okay, I got to order the cheapest thing on the menu, and you know, and okay, after I do the tip,
Man.
okay, yeah, I think I can do this. It's like, I don't give a shit anymore.
I know,
You know?
I'm ducking and hiding,
Yeah,
looking at people's
right?
chicken coop, seeing which one laid. Just kidding.
And it's well, I've stolen eggs from our neighbor's chicken. No, I'm just joking. We don't have any chickens by us. No, actually we do, yeah. And ducks.
And they are missing some eggs.
And they are missing some eggs, but it's not from me. Anyways, you know, and JD, again, it's something that just doesn't happen overnight. It's something I've worked on for a lot of years. And you and I have read a lot of the self-help books and different things. And you and I know some of the same people.
Well, I think, if I can, really quick, is the same subject here,
Yeah.
talking about having that. And that's the same thing, as I've wanted to put it into, you know, having the faith that in God that everything's going to work out, and having that faith of that this will be taken care of one way, you know, through that faith. Obviously, faith has to be followed by action, but sometimes when you get into that dark point and you do feel like you're alone, and the one person that you're trying to have faith and believe in, and believing in God and Christ and wanting to feel the Holy Spirit, essentially, and like truly trying to feel them. Like, I mean, I've sat there and like, okay, well, I need to read my scriptures. I need to do something, you know, trying to bring it in to feel closer, like something to give me an answer that just sent a feeling of comfort. It's going to be okay. And then to not feel anything still at that point, then that's the ultimate moment of feeling alone. You know, and having that faith that it's there, but like, this may sound crazy on a mind side, but almost like trying to imagine that like Christ is there next to me with his hand on his shoulder, like something, please somebody give me comfort, because I need that, you know. And then when you don't get that feeling and stuff, and having that faith, it seems to dim, right? And so having to keep it. And then I seen a thing, it was like, you know, when you're going through hard times, don't ask God why, ask for strength. And I'm like, okay, well, if I ask for that, he might put something else really hard on me to build that strength up. And that's not what, you know what I mean?
what you're looking for.
Yeah. You know, like, please take a little bit of the weight off. Well, JD, I'm going to help you out, son. We're going to add 5 more pounds to the other shoulder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's only 5. It's only 5.
You know what I mean?
You can handle it.
Right? But, and I get it in the aspect of having that faith, of giving you the strength and the mental attitude, and again, character. I think character is a very important thing, you know, and to hold true to who you are and to be better than what we were yesterday. And that's the example, and the fact that that's what this all was supposed to be built upon, was us to prosper by love and peace, not by what's going on right now. And it's like wanting to be, we're pretty much like a speck of dust, but trying to change something.
Yeah.
You two are stirring a lot of thoughts again.
Yeah,
For
sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to jump in here soon. If not, I was going to ask you too.
You can always give me an elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but that's where I was going with that, is that keeping that faith and having that strength, you know. It's like I asked for that. Is it going to help, or is it going to be a harder wall? Like, how fast am I going? You know, those kind of thoughts. And then Bruce Almighty, I was talking to Brad about this out there. I was like, sometimes I feel like that. Like I'm the ant, and God's the mean kid with the magnifying glass. He's going to burn my feelers off and watch me squirm, you know. Like that's...
Well, it's like a buddy of mine, my good buddy Axel Soto, told me once when my wife was in the depths of addiction. I was talking to him once, and I said, "Buddy, I feel like God's pissed at me. He's really mad at me." And he goes, "Wait a minute, Tiger." He goes, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "God is everything good. He's not giving you." And I do believe too. Yes, he puts roadblocks in our way for us, and he puts the hurdles, to see how we're going to go around. And my wife's favorite thing is, God won't give me anything I can't handle. That's one of her favorite sayings. However, it's like he's not there to burn us. He's not there to do anything. And I believe that a lot of the stuff that we go through, it builds our character. Everything that I've gone through, and JD, in 2019, I was thinking about taking my own life. I was coming home from a First Fridays event, and I'm like, I'm going to go home, get my pistol, I'm done. I cannot come home to this shit any longer. And I do believe God stepped in and put a stop to that.
Good.
Which I'm very, very grateful for. And I still don't know if I would have done it. I don't know. Maybe I would have gone up to the mountains and pulled the trigger. Maybe I would have got up there and just chose differently. But I'm glad it didn't get to that point. So, I don't know. To kind of, I really would like Mike to touch base on this, because, like you said, we're bringing up a lot of thoughts with things that we're saying, and with what I'm sharing, I'm just sharing of where my life has changed in the last 6 months, where it's completely, totally flipped. Nothing as far as in the outside world for me has changed. I still have the same bills that I've had. I still got the same responsibilities that I've always had. My wife's still struggling, keeping a job. But yet something's different.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Some of the thoughts that have been stirred, first of all, or not first of all, but one of them is that you've both mentioned having your own blind spots, not being able to see. And I think, I don't want to advertise too much for the whole mental health business, but I think there is some value at some point in sitting down with someone who is a respected professional or friend who can listen to what you have to say and can give you some honest feedback. I think that's very valuable. And psychotherapy is one of the things that psychiatrists do and social workers and psychologists do, and I think there's some value to that. So that's one thought I had. That can help you see and focus on your blind spots and make the corrections that you need. You both found other ways to do that. The other thought I had, as we talk about spiritual things, you're making me think a little bit about the book of Ecclesiastes. I don't know if you've read that.
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Well, you've heard of Solomon.
Yes, yeah.
Solomon was a really wise king back in the days of ancient Israel. And the book of Ecclesiastes, you ought to read it. It's not that long. It's 12 fairly short chapters. And in that, Solomon goes through and describes his life and his pursuits. And Solomon, at the time, was one of the most wealthy people in the world. He had thousands of, I don't know how many. He had a big harem of women. He had wealth. He had knowledge. He was known for his wisdom. And he recounts going through these things and seeking power and achieving that, or seeking wealth and achieving that, or seeking fame and achieving that. His response to each of those achievements was vanity of vanities. All is vanity. And he repeats that phrase a lot in Ecclesiastes. And what that means to me is that he would achieve this. He would try to be like the smartest guy around or the wealthiest guy around. And when he got to that point, he realized that it was kind of empty. It was vain and not fully satisfying to his soul. The book concludes with his statement of, "Let us hear the whole conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments." That was his conclusion, and that's what gave his soul the most satisfaction. And I think it was a interesting journey for him to get to that point. And I kind of agree with him. I think having wealth and power and possessions, I'm not, I don't want to turn all those things away.
Right. Yeah.
But if we expect those to totally satisfy us, we will be disappointed. And I think we see evidence of that. When you look at the rich and famous around the world, so many of them have disastrous lives. And they have so many things that we mere mortals are hoping for.
Yeah.
But it's not really all that satisfying in the end. The thing that's satisfying, kind of what you're talking about, Al, and what you're talking about, JD, is that kind of inner satisfaction of knowing that you're being honest with yourself, you're trusting God, which I think is important, and you're learning about yourself. I think a lot of the purpose of life, a lot of the meaning of life, is to find out who we are.
Yes.
And I think ultimately, you talked about being a speck in the universe. You mentioned that, JD. And it's, when you consider the vastness of the universe, I think it's easy to think, how am I of any significance at all in this big scheme of things? And I can understand that, but I also truly believe that when we really understand who we are and what our lives are about, we'll understand that we have tremendous value.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Beyond what we can comprehend right now.
Yeah.
And I think learning about that, and that's not all going to come into focus all at once, but I think it's a life's journey to get to that point where our souls are satisfied and where we understand the world around us and where we understand ourselves more deeply.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because again, I've worked my butt off to get to a point like that in my life. And since 2009, and I feel like it's finally happening.
Good.
And instead of using another word that I have gotten rid of out of my vocabulary, but I'm going to say it today, is trying to be this individual. It's like, I know who I am now. I don't need to try. I'm me. And this is who I am, and I know I have integrity, and I know I'm honest, and I know I want to help people, and I have this now, and it's like, I don't have to go out there and try this anymore, I can just go through and live my life and get out there and help as many people as possible. And I do. You got something to say on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's most satisfying to our souls, to our inner sense of who we are, is when we get outside of ourselves, when we extend beyond being just focused on ourselves and looking at something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
That involves service, usually, giving to others, helping lift others. We all need to be lifted, but lifting others is a big part of.
Oh, Les Brown, that's one thing that he says. He says that, the service is the price we pay to rent our space here on this earth. Like, that's what it should be about. And that's where, again, we've talked, being a speaker and going in and moving a crowd and moving people and, one-on-ones and stuff, and being able to have that light bulb moment of that you inspired something deeper that words can't really explain. Yeah. You just see it and you just feel it. That's, the hunt of, I guess, what I've seen it. I've felt it before. And, I want to be a big contributing factor to that.
Well, I believe you. And I think you will.
I do too.
And what I would say about that, I might adjust my own thinking on that a little bit, is rather than thinking of service as paying rent, and service is a little bit of the payoff that we get. We get the opportunity to serve others. If we see that as a weighty obligation that we have, it's not as satisfying.
Right.
But if we can serve others because we can and we enjoy doing that.
That's why when you talked about famous people that have money, or as humans and stuff, we would all like to hit that point of just no financial stress. But it's you get to that point without a purpose, or I made it big in the movies, that was my goal. Is that really if they would have focused on, I'm getting big in the movies for the goal of the financial freedom that'll present so that I can turn around and give back, and that was their final end goal and their focus and the feeling, that's why we talk about it. I mean, some people are scared to talk about money, some are not. I dream of being wealthy, and it's not because obviously I want to take care of my family, but it's the satisfying, on my bucket list. I was talking to my dad about this last night, and he was like, what's on your bucket list? I was like, I want to be in a spot financially where I can give a service, but do it anonymously.
Yeah.
And have a point where going to the cancer center, that's one of my goals, is paying for a kid's treatment. Yeah. That they have no idea where it came from.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And the reason why, or to be able to pay off a home to a family struggling, and just be able to be that person that relieves them, but again, they don't know where it came from, and the reason why is because, and this is that purpose. Again, it's just it's a vision, it's a dream of mine. I think this would be the coolest thing. But they have no choice but to pay it forward. They have no point. I'm the start of a ripple that they have no choice that they can't ripple it back. They won't know.
JD, and
that's the way this world used to work. Or it should. I'm not saying it should, but again, that peace and love. You're the ripple to pay it forward. Have you guys ever seen that movie, Pay It Forward?
Mm-hmm. And you've done that.
It's that same thing. It's that aspect. But being being able to do it on a large scale, like that feeling. That's why money's a tool.
Let me ask you this though, JD. What is that large scale? I mean, you did a video. I remember you did a video of a construction worker guy out there holding this sign, out there in the heat. You pulled over and you went over and you gave him some money. You're hurting for money, but yet you still went over and gave this guy some money and just said, hey, thank you for doing what you're doing. That's freaking huge. Maybe it's not paying for someone's cancer treatment, but that $20, you don't know what that $20 may mean to that guy. Maybe he had no clue that, he had no clue someone was going to give him $20, and maybe that $20 just helped him pay towards a bill or put food in his stomach, right, even though he is working. To me, everything's huge, and again, it doesn't matter how small the contribution is or how large, it's still a contribution. And I think it's still something, again, as for me, my higher power, I believe that's what we are also here to do is to give. And it just, there's all kinds of different ways of giving service,
right? Have you ever heard of Mr. Beast? Sorry, really quick.
Mr. Who? Beast?
Yeah. Uh-uh. So he's a YouTuber, but that's what he does. Like, I mean, again, not saying that I want to go be YouTube famous because that defeats the pact of wanting to be anonymous.
Yeah.
But he goes out and he does, like the small contributions, as you mentioned, it could be a big change for somebody else. But like being in the spot that you or myself have been in such a financial crunch of the rent or the mortgage or like completely just feeling like devastated at a point, again, that paralysis, to be somebody, that $20 may help with a meal, absolutely. But did it solve the bigger stress too, that maybe on those people? And so, and I don't know, and that's where I was saying, like, it would be, I don't know, that's...
Yeah, and I see where you're going with it, because I have my own dreams too of, when my bank account is more plentiful than it is right now, of things that I want to do for people, So,
I want to have that thing that's saying, when somebody comes up like, hey, and I don't go to the bar, but I just take this comment, right? It's like, hey, I don't see you at the bar. I don't see you out much. I don't ever see you at the bank either. So not to be that way, but like once you hit that, it's just, money amplifies who you are. And if you're not such a good person, it'll probably amplify that,
That's why some people say money is the root of all evil. We talked about that on a show last week. Well, I guess it can be if it's used in the wrong way, right? Because I've seen money change people,
But it can do tremendous good.
And it can do tremendous good. There are a lot of people out there who are very, very wealthy, and there's a lot of good. I mean, I watch a lot of documentaries. I love watching documentaries. And I do believe that a lot of the documentaries, they do their best to show who these people really were in life. And I watched one on Robin Williams, and it was a kick-ass documentary about Robin Williams, who I don't think there'll ever be anyone of his ever again. The guy was pretty
unique.
Oh, very, very unique. One thing I did not know. Now, I've done some acting stuff and different things, and people hire you for the background. All those people that you see in the background, they're paid. They don't get paid very well, but it's just the opportunity to be in a series or a show or whatever, a movie. Robin Williams had it in his contract. Anytime he was hired to do a movie, all his background people were homeless.
Oh, really?
Homeless. And it was in his contract. You will not hire anybody from an agency. We will hire homeless people. Because maybe they are only making $100 for a 12 or 13-hour day, but that $100 is going to help them.
Yeah.
And cool. Who knows how many lives he changed by doing that.
Yeah, that's great.
by giving someone that opportunity. And that's why I say I don't really think it, and again, this is just my thoughts. I don't think, again, it matters how big or how small it is. If it's given, You know, you're making someone's life's change. I mean, yeah, you're helping someone.
I agree with you, Al. The thought I had, I'm going to quote somebody whose name I can't remember, but
Okay.
the author said, "We are here on earth to do good to others. What the others are here for, I don't know."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it's kind of funny, but yeah, I think we're here to do good.
Yeah.
Hopefully the others will figure that out too.
Yeah, and even like with wealth, I shared this on a show. I don't remember when, and I love what this friend of mine taught me that day. A gentleman that I haven't seen for a while. We met networking years ago. His name is Oz, not the Wizard of Oz, but his name really is Oz.
Not the guy running for
No,
Senate.
not the guy running for Senate. So he calls me up one day and he says, "Hey man, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Let's you got time to meet me over at Top Golf? We'll just sit and have a chat." We didn't go golf for nothing. Didn't even get anything to eat. We just got a glass of water and went and sat in their restaurant and we started chatting. And he's telling me a little bit about what's been going on in his life, and I was sharing a little bit with what was been going on in mine. And this was probably 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And he leaned over and he goes, puts his hands on top of mine and he goes, "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Yeah, shoot." He goes, "Are you wealthy?" And I kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, if you see my bank account, hell, you'd know I'm not wealthy." And I'm laughing, I'm joking about this.
But he's asking if you're wealthy in life.
And he goes, "Let me tell you something, my friend." And again, he has his hands on mine. And he goes, "You and I do a lot of networking. We know a lot of the same people." And he goes, "Whenever I seem to go to a networking group, your name seems to pop up." And he goes, "I've never, ever, ever heard anyone speak an ill word about you." He goes, "My friend, that is true wealth."
Yeah.
And he got me crying. I got tears in my eyes. And I'm going, I never thought of it that way. You know? Maybe I don't have the money to pay rent. But man, I'm wealthy in a lot of other things.
Right.
I got a wife who loves me. I got incredible kids. I got amazing grandkids. You know, I have people outside who are not family members that are friends who I know would never lead me astray. They would always be, whatever they shared with me is in my best interest, not theirs. That is actually wealth. That is true wealth.
No.
You know?
So, somebody else once said, "Having money is a poor way to be wealthy." That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Money is nice. Nobody's
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
we
knocking
need it,
that.
right? We need it.
And
you know?
yeah, it's nice to have more, but like has been said, having money, having a lot of wealth will reveal your character.
Oh, yeah.
I think Abraham Lincoln said, "If you really want to reveal a man's character, give him power." And I would say the same thing about wealth.
Yes.
And I've seen wonderful people with a lot of money do wonderful things with it. And I see their own souls grow with that. And we've all seen examples of people who haven't done so well with that.
Yeah.
But Al, I certainly agree with you that if the only way you are wealthy is because of your bank account, you're missing the point.
Well, I think
you're not
that
seeing
goes in
life.
with the triangle or what the three, right? Mind, body, and soul. Like you gotta be wealthy in all of those places, right? And when we're lacking there in the mind or the body or in our spirituality side of it, those things have to be connected. But I do think that, you know, the stresses of finances that can somewhat, as you try to focus on those and bring those together, sometimes just having some of that stress taken off sometimes helps.
It's a good thing.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And so again, a lot of people, and I have, as I was talking to you yesterday about it, you know, and I can't be the only person that's going through this stuff and feeling like that. I know there's other people, you know,
Especially now.
here in
My
our
gosh.
here in our country and around
Yeah.
the world, and you know, and so sometimes it's one of those things too to be humble because I could have it a lot worse, but sometimes when you're just in that moment of panic and anxiety and it's constant, and like I hate the mailbox, like I'm like. please don't open the mailbox. Like, you know, something's going to be in there. Another bill or something got to take care of, you
Just
know.
put out there in the universe that some teenagers are going to come by and with baseball bats and do the, you know,
No.
like what we used to do.
I try to put out there that, you know, I'm going to open it and I'm going to have something that's going to give some relief, you know. But,
Yeah.
you know, and when I don't get a bill in the mail, I'm like, thank you, God. You looked out for me today, didn't you? Like, we'll take these ads right over to the garbage, you know, kind of thing. But not then, and that's where I wanted to bring this all around is no matter what people are going through, if you're going through a hard time and stuff, just like as I have been, to relate, you know, I'm not that success story that I will be, but the fact is the character and stuff, you have to stay true to who you are and don't lose sight of that no matter how dark the room might be.
Yeah.
You know, keep faith that things are going to be okay, things are going to work out, and like I said, it's a test of true character. It's
Test of true character, and it's also making your character stronger. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, if it, you know, I've shared a few times, you know, I worked at a manufacturing place for 24 years. I loved my job. I loved what I did up until about the last 6 months that I was there. And it got to a point in my life where things were so stressful for me. I had so much on my plate that my release was, you know, doing coke on Fridays and Saturdays and drinking, and then Sundays would come, clean my act up. Did it for years. It's always just this little 2-day thing, and then, you know, I was right back at it. It was like my release, and I remember looking in the mirror one night we had some friends over and we're partying, and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm at 198 pounds, most I've ever weighed my whole life, and I just asking God, something's got to change, because if I can continue going down this road, next year I could be 230, you know, weigh 230, and my health starts plummeting because of what I'm doing.
right.
And he helped me. I lost my job.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember going, man, I wasn't asking for this, and it literally brought me back. And I've shared it, and I'm not ashamed of saying this. I decided to hit my knees, and I hadn't hit my knees for a long, long time. I was literally embarrassed. I'm the only one in the house. No one's home. I'm embarrassed to get the edge of my bed, hit my knees, and ask God, what? Yeah, I asked you to help me, not this way. My gosh, I don't have a job anymore. Where is this going to go?
He's heard that before.
And he's heard it before, yeah. And Nick and Ryan, when they were on the show, Nick and Ryan, A Tribe of Giants, and Nick is one of the authors of The Giant and the Smalls. When he was on the show, he was talking about connecting the dots backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I was
and he
here
was,
for that.
Yeah, and he was talking about walking out in the desert and finding a marble, you know, middle of the frickin' desert out here on the west side, you know, west end of Salt Lake here. And I really started thinking about that, and I've used it quite a bit, and I really started connecting the dots backwards. Everything happened in July of 2009 to put me exactly where I'm at right now.
Right.
And I've seen it. I'm just not going, okay, well, I'm just doing it to connect it. It's, this happened for this reason, this happened for this reason, this happened for this reason, this took me here so it could take me there so I could meet this person. And when you start connecting those dots backwards, for me, it really started helping me understand where my life was going, even though I still didn't know my why at the time. You know, I didn't find my why literally until I started sharing my story a little bit, but really when I started this podcast.
Yeah.
That's when my why really frickin' just like taking a huge punch right in the gut. It's like, boom, that's it.
Yeah.
That is it, you know?
Well, and to relate to that, like you said, you know, connecting those dots backward and looking back to your job, it's kind of the thing that I have felt, because, again, I like sales. I really do. Like, I enjoy the process. I enjoy learning about it, and I've also, too, taken it in a hard way of, like, people that have taught me and mentored me in certain aspects when They're like, hey, you need to be this certain way, or like I had one guy that tried to tell me that I needed to be like Goofy from Disneyland, and it's the best entertainer kind of thing. And I'm like, why can't I just be me?
Yeah.
Why can't I just give it black and white and
Yep.
tell people, hey, this is the benefit, this isn't the benefit, and leave everything on the table for them to make the best executive decision for them, especially when, like where I'm at now, if I've sold solar or I've sold a roof or whatever, I'm like, I'm not talking about something that cost them $5. Like, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. Why? It's not my place to shove that down their throat like the rest of you guys are. Like, that's not okay.
Oh, yeah.
Or to manipulate them into, if they don't do this or that
Pour
that takeaway thing,
Pour the salt in the wound, right?
And I get it. People buy on emotion and stuff, and that's part of being in sales. But it's like, why do I gotta have that demeanor? I don't want that. I want to lay everything out on the table, and if it's the best decision and they feel good about going with me and my company, they made the best decision, and at night they can sleep and I can sleep.
And you can sleep at night.
Correct.
I worked for a coaching company years ago, and I won't say who they are, and I won't mention the person's name, but when I was in my training, he was teaching me that you need to learn how to pour salt in people's wounds. And
Great.
I'm like, okay, and I quite didn't really understand what he was meaning. Then one day we had a client that I brought in, and we're sitting down with this beautiful young lady, and she opens up and she starts pouring everything out. And I mean, I'm feeling for this gal. I'm just like, oh my gosh, And I watched him get up, grab her chair, pull her close to him, and he just starts frickin' going off on her. And some of the stuff he shared, which we usually don't hold things back on this show, but well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The person that was in our office, her boyfriend was having some issues with pills and also with sleeping with other girls and stuff like that. And it was really messing with her. And he pulled her close. He says, how does it make you feel knowing that your boyfriend's sticking his you-know-what in her you-know-what? And I was just like, oh, shit, he just said that? I'm like, oh, my, I mean, the shock on my face. And she just broke down and started bawling. And I'm like, I got a phone call I need to make. I got to get up, and I got to go outside. Excuse me. And I excused myself. And I was out there pacing the hall just going, I cannot believe that just happened. I'm the one that brought this person in. And this is what happens? I was out there for 10, 15 minutes. The meeting ends. She goes walking out. She's bawling. She leaves. This man come out, and you would think he just did something incredible. He come out and he goes, that's how you pour salt in the wound.
Yeah, nice.
And I went, holy shit. Yeah, I don't want to work for this person anymore. Because if that's what it takes to get a client, I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
You've got someone that is already hurting in pain and you want to put them in more pain? And you want to put it in front of them?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is people are moved by two things in this world, and it's pain or pleasure, right?
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, it's mostly pain that will actually get somebody to move more than.
Yeah,
right?
pouring the salt in the wound, yeah.
But there's a difference in painting the picture of a relating and having that pain there to help them move in a decision. Like I said, again, in sales, that you paint that picture, but is it a picture of truth, or is it a picture of you're painting a picture of a movie being created, and that's where, again, that sales point, like, again, example for working at the tire shop, somebody's got a car comes in, it needs brakes, right? Go out there and show them, hey, this is why it needs it, and this is what will happen if you don't. Your rotors need to be replaced, so forth down the line. You do it with honesty and integrity. You don't go into them and be like, well, they're down to, we flipped them inside out, they're metal to metal,
and your intent, JD, is to be helpful.
Correct.
And what you're describing, the intent sounds like it was really self-serving
to bring a client in to make money.
Yeah,
that's what it was all about.
Without any regard to the damage being done in the process.
No,
and that's kind of evil.
Oh, to me it was very evil. Yeah, I was gone. I was gone about a week after that. He wanted me to come in for some training, and he had given me a bunch of his designer suits that didn't fit him anymore. These suits were freaking nice. We're talking $2,500 suits, and I showed up Saturday morning for my training with all the suits, and he's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "I'm just bringing these back to you." And,
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, but this isn't for me. And he was in shock. But I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, how would you feel if you had done that and made some money and sacrificed your integrity in the process?
I tell you what, after I had left that day, I called her and apologized to her. I says, I don't use this word anymore, but I was telling her I was sorry. I don't like to use sorry anymore because that's a negative word in my eyes. But I'm like, I am so sorry that just happened. I had no clue it was going to go to that point, and and ate myself up. I ate myself up for weeks after that. I'm not the one that said it, but to witness it, oh my gosh.
Right.
So.
Well, I think that's where it goes with. I was talking to Laban, so as we wrap things up, Laban came over when he first came up here. Him and his wife. When we went to dinner, you guys invited me to, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Laban and Anna came over to my house a few days later for dinner, which was a treat, And it's one of those things too. Having Laban there, the rest of my life spiraling out of control, but I'm like, it's all right. I got Laban here in my kitchen. Like, this is all right. So
get ready to get a mind full of. Right, super thoughts, right?
Yeah, and so again, giving, Laban's got so much good advice and the stuff that he's been through and where he's gone and where he's at. Him and both Anna, their stories are amazing, and it's one of those things like Laban gives me very good feedback and in a sense of direction, but it's like trying to act on it. It's still one of those things of like feeling like I'm in paralysis because he gives advice and stuff of things to do, but like essentially, it's like, hey, that's great, and that's I can see where he's coming from, and obviously everything that he says is coming from his heart, right? But it's on me. It's like, how is that going to solve this issue that I have this second?
I know because I had the same thoughts as you, JD, when other people were giving me advice. Right.
And I'm not discrediting it because Laban, again, he's one of the most, him and Anna. He called me when he made the decision that they're moving here.
Yeah.
He called me, or he texted me that night, and he's like, "Hey, can I call you?" And I was like, "Of course you can call me." Like I might have been just bawling my eyes out, but hey, Laban, how's it going? Like kind of thing, just because he actually holds a really high standard to me in my life in that aspect, and I really respect him. I'm grateful, but he's like, me and Anna decided we're moving up here to Alpine, I think it was. Yeah. And I was like, excited that he's even just here in the presence of our state.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that is like having these people in our lives, and then the way my integrity is, like, again, as I mentioned, I love sales, and he brought this up. He's like, well, if you're so good at sales, why are you struggling? And I sat back and I was like, because, like I enjoy sales and I enjoy the process, but maybe I'm not selling what I believe in. Well, it's like, again, I can sell anything, and I believe that, especially if I shut some things out. And my dad even said that. He's like, you could sell a freaking freezer to an Eskimo, but on it, I'm trying to sell a product, that may or may not benefit the customer, or it's one of those things like sometimes you do it because it's like, hey, this is how I'm going to put food on my table, and I still want to do it with integrity. But am I selling what I truly believe in? What I truly believe in is something that's going to change their lives. That's what I want to be doing. But how do I do that? Where do I find that product? How do I find that stuff? And then it's like, hey, well, the best way to do that is sell yourself and market yourself and be that, again, the speaker, the person that I want to be. Not saying that I want to be Les Brown or Laban or you and stuff like.
We're our own person. You want to be JD.
I want to do that, like what Nick's doing, like to be a part of that circle, and even taking advice from those people, like, oh, well, you go join this talking group or Toastmasters Association.
You got Toastmasters and National Speaker Association.
So, and again, one of those things and stuff where like I've looked at hiring certain mentors, and I'm like, oh, that's great, but like I'm already like in the verge. I'm losing my home. Like, how am I supposed to come out with $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to do any of this? Like, first priority is my family. And, that people talk about like your willingness to learn or your teachability index. What are you willing to give up? I'm willing to give up most things in my life to learn and truly take it in, but I will not, because I know what it's like, but I will not give up some of the little things. Like, I'll give up time with my kids. I already sacrifice a lot on that aspect.
Yeah.
But I will not just give up. Like, that's one of those, like...
You know, and JD, just to...
I don't hold that 10 level when they're like, oh, would you just give up everything? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
To throw this out there before we wrap this up, and again, I've had people tell me the same thing. They have said the same exact stuff to me, and I've said the same thing. Well, how do I do this and pay rent at the same time? It's impossible.
Well, like, even like where our credit's at, I couldn't finance a porta potty right now.
Yeah.
So like, I'm supposed to do that.
Well, maybe Mike and I can help you with that. I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, like that's
Yeah.
the situation we're in when people are like, oh, just go get a credit card. I'm like, dude, they would laugh at me.
Yeah.
And that's the spot, but that's okay, and I accept it, and I have goals, and like we are working on things, but that's the reality of where I'm at right now.
Right.
And when we talk about unicorns and rainbows, of where to, that's where I feel like sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm 30 grand and I'll teach you everything. I'm like, once the horse comes here with the wings and the horn on its head, and I hop on, I'll fly right on over, and we'll get this going. Sure. Like, I can't, like that comes down to that being me, being that blunt, have that integrity, or like, let's not focus on the problem, but let's focus on the solution to solve it, right? Well, that's great. We all can talk about this, and then we can talk about this solution that's way out here. How about we help bring it together, as we're supposed to be inspiring people to help the solution here. Let's do this in baby steps.
Yeah.
You've seen that picture, the ladder, right? The one with the little steps on it, and the guy's all the way up the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the one that's got the ladder and the thing's up here, and he can't grab it, so he's still stuck down in the pit. That's what I feel like when those things come to me like that. Like, hey, let's take these baby steps and we can get you here to where you can afford to do this, or we can take you in that direction. We can help you write your book. We can get it published, the dreams and the aspirations that are there. But it's like, I'm not given those steps or taught the small ones. It's like, hey.
So
I feel like the kid at the playground trying to jump
on the monkey bars, and everything that you're saying, JD. I've had people tell me the exact same stuff. I thought things the exact same way that you're looking at it, because it's true, right? It's not bullshit. It's true,
right?
However, I am now such a firm believer that there is still a way. There is still a way, and you don't have to come up with all that frickin' money. If you really, so let me put it this way. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it was Laban that said something to me when I very first met Laban. Okay, we did a Zoom call and we were chatting, and he goes, "If you were hurting for money to pay rent, keep that roof over your family's head, you would do anything and everything you possibly could, right, to come up with that money to make sure that roof stayed over their heads. If there's something you want to do, you will do whatever it frickin' takes to get to that point." And when he said that, I'm hearing him and I'm just going, yeah, but, and I wasn't saying it to him, but I was thinking it in my head. And when the idea of even doing this podcast, and I'm talking to a lot of people, and I'm finding out frickin' cameras, $250 for a somewhat decent one. $250, that's not a lot of money. I didn't have it, or even a decent microphone. You may be talking another $150 to $200 to $300. I don't have it. Even if it was $100, I didn't have it. How is this possible? And I just kept digging. I kept asking. I kept talking to people. Next thing I know, I'm being introduced to Brad. And we're almost 2 years now, coming up on 2 years strong, and the podcast is growing. Resilience Talk Network is growing. I mean, we were talking about it, when you came into the studio, Brad and I was chatting. I mean, the excitement we're having of just going, this was nowhere a while ago. And it's even if, and again, it's just that little teeny baby step, little teeny baby step. Because if there's a way that you want to go to somewhere,
Right.
like Laban told me, you will find a way to make it happen, even if you only move an inch.
Right. And I
Right?
believe that. That's where I go back to the fact of the mental blockness and the feeling of paralysis. It's that same thing. Yeah, you do whatever you can to keep the house, right? For example, in my same situation of doing everything, working 2-3 jobs just to make things happen and still feeling like, still literally, honestly falling behind on things, just to make sure that the kids have what they need. It's not like we go out and splurge, we don't go out to dinners, I'm happy to eat like macaroni and cheese or ramen noodles or, stuff that probably ain't so good for your body, but like,
I learned how to cook ramen noodles a lot of different ways back in some
peanut butter
of
and
my
jelly
times.
sandwiches, whatever it takes, again, just being
Yeah.
humble, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not above that. I like it, hot dogs and macaroni, whatever it is. The problem there, and it's not really a problem, but it's again that cause of paralysis is like, again, and I love Laban in that, because again, I do need to work on networking. I do know the things that I need to do, but it's like the exhaustion of working all the time to feel like I'm still not getting ahead. And like I said, we're at a point that we are moving out of our home into a different situation just because that we need to I got to cut something somewhere. Because it's like I want to be able to focus on these other things too and make these decisions to be able to get a steps ahead. But when I'm so busy and stressed out in a 20-hour period in a 24 hours of just working to get things done and still not getting ahead, and then you do that month after month, he's like, if your rent's due and you're going to find a way no matter what to make sure that roof stays over your head. Well, when you keep doing that month after month after month, and you're in a point in a mindset of survival and not creativity, it will, even knowing consciously, I know what needs to be done and I know where things can be done. It's like finding the time, breaking it up, and sometimes it's like, don't confuse productivity with motion. Like you can be doing things, but if it isn't being productive, is it getting anywhere? But you get to a point that you're just so exhausted mentally, you're exhausted physically, and knowing that I'm still facing that same fight tomorrow with the same amount of time that I'm out there working like I have been, to feel like I'm just going backwards, when it's like, okay, I need to get network, I need to go talk to these people, I need to connect, I need to start this channel, I need to start this book. Like then you just start to these, all these little steps that I know it can take, but then I feel like I'm somebody that's got extreme ADD, right? And I'm like, and shut down, because it's the one thing is, again, that survival of what do I need? What are the main essentials? Food, shelter, water,
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to, and trying to break free from that. And I think that's what society is creating with what's going on in our world. We talk about inflation, and again, I'm not the only one feeling the squeeze.
Yeah.
There's people that are in that, and they aren't being creative. It's like being a kid. When you could go out and a blade of grass was true, or butterfly, or your stuffed animal came to life, and you talked, just a kid, your imagination and creativeness, and that's something that as adults, that's why we love children so much.
Yeah. We
kids,
lose
because
it.
we see that magic, and that creativeness, but how well did life function when you were able to be in that creative mode? Right? It's a miracle.
And I want to pause you right here, JD. I don't remember what book it was that I read this in, or maybe it was even at a class I was in. But do you know, what was it? When was the recession? 1931, 32? Around there. Do you know there were more millionaires created during that time than any other time? During a recession.
I believe that's, again,
The depression.
Or the depression. And why? Because people started using their imagination again.
Right.
They're like, and you're still seeing it to this day. More and more people are leaving the corporate world because they're tired of being sheep. They're tired of being told what to do on everyday basis. And some of these people too, like what you're saying with integrity and things like that, they're not going to do this. And they've come up with their own little things,
They get to where they pay you enough to stay there. But, like, again, it's paying for your home, paying for your car that you get back and forth to work and stuff. Like, I've done that. I've gone in and looked at other job stuff. And even just, like, the thought of, like, taking something else just to help out or whatever, because, again, I need to. But when they, like, hey, we'll pay you $15, $18 an hour, I'm like, let's hang on. We'll go back to kindergarten. Let's pull out this calculator and figure some stuff out.
You had calculators in kindergarten?
Inflation, no, but I know how to use one now, right? But I'll go through, it's like pointing the picture. It's like, hey, when everything's said and done, taxes and everything else, so forth, come out, like, do you know what rent is today? How am I supposed to get to and from work? Now what am I cutting out to accommodate for this job that I have the skill set above and beyond, which I know, but it's like taking and almost having to go back to settle because you got to do what you got to do for your family.
Yeah.
So now it's like, hey, now I got to get 3-4 of these, and I'm working all the time. I don't ever see my kids. Again, like I said, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot. Really am. But I didn't know to the point that, like my daughter, when I get home, like, it's the biggest joy in the world. Like, she don't care. She wants Dad. She'll even cry. Like, there's times because I'll stop at home and then go back to work. And she's like, I come to work with Dad. I'm like, no, you can't. She's like, no, I'm coming. Like, she's 3, and she knows. Like,
his daughter's a cutie, too.
She's like,
she's a doll.
But she's that way. Or when I get home and crawl in bed and stuff, and she comes and she makes sure she doesn't care. She's like, I'm laying by Dad. Like, she doesn't.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it's the best feeling in the world.
There's some wealth right there, right?
Yeah.
It's the best feeling in the world, feeling that love.
Absolutely.
And why I'm doing this, but, like, it breaks my heart because I want to be there. Like I said, her birthday was on September 5th. I couldn't give her a birthday. We didn't have anything. We couldn't do anything for her. So silently, that crushes me, but she looks at me in pure, like, I love you. And that's the best feeling in the world. That's where we're going to that moment. That why we look at kids is because of that magic, that creativity.
I learn stuff from our grandkids all the time.
Yeah.
How many grandkids?
3.
3.
Yeah, 2 granddaughters and a grandson, and I pick up on things from them all the time. And I remember seeing a picture years ago, and then we probably got to get this wrapped up. My daughter, or someone took a picture of my daughter and our granddaughter when she was probably, I don't know, maybe she was 10, 12 months old or something, and it was snowing. And she's just pressed against the sliding glass door, and my daughter's knelt down, and she's just got this look on her face. Like, this is so cool. And she had that look. And I remember when I saw that picture, I'm like, where did we lose that? Yeah. Where did we lose that as we got older? And I started thinking about it more and more.
Cute.
So I was just showing this. It's her and her little brother.
Oh, nice.
You talk
That is
about
a
that.
beautiful picture.
She's there, but she's so lost. And then watching him, same thing. Like,
Yeah.
he's lost in amazement. Like, he's like, wow.
And
It's nice to hang on to that wonderment that's part of childhood.
Yeah, and I believe we need to get that back as adults. We've got to get that wonderment back, of like, there's so many cool things, and kind of going back where, you've talked to God. And I had a buddy tell me once, matter of fact, Jim, who I mentioned in the show, he's like, are you praying? I'm like, I'm praying, but I'm not hearing nothing. You know what he told me? He goes, are you listening?
It's part of the deal.
Am I listening? Well, yeah, I'm listening. And then I started thinking about it later in the day, and I'm like, am I really listening? I mean, seriously, am I really listening? And it's knowing what thoughts to hear inside here, right? Because, Mike, and you know this in the line of work that you've been in, I mean, the subconscious mind will kick in really quick, right? And it tells you a lot of things. Oh, yeah, Frank
gets busy.
Really, what's true and what's not. It's what we perceive as true. Is that correct? I mean, if we're feeding ourselves something in our head all the time, then basically it's true, right?
Well, we may perceive it that way.
Perceive it as true, yeah. So I really started paying attention a lot more of what my thoughts were, gosh, I can't remember this other book that I read that really got me thinking about paying attention to my thoughts. And I had a gentleman that did a coaching session with me, kind enough to open up his arms and was like, usually I charge $150. I'll do it for $20. Okay, I'm jumping on that in a heartbeat, And when I was struggling with listening to what my head was telling me, and I was talking to him a week later, and he goes, you still haven't got it. And basically he was telling me to listen to my inner spirit. And I'm like, well, this is what my inner spirit said. And then I was like, well, is it, I started thinking. He goes, No, you're overanalyzing everything. He says, your inner spirit says, go this way, don't go this way, yes or no. It's very quick and brief. The other thoughts that are coming after, he says, that's just you. That's just you trying to put meaning to all this. Stop trying to put meaning to it.
There's a book by David
You
Dr.
know?
Hawkins, Letting Go.
Yeah,
And he talks
I've
about,
read
yeah,
that
yeah,
one
I
too.
gave you a copy of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I read that.
He talks
yeah.
about that in his book. You know, separating the emotion from the action or the word.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, oh my gosh, we could probably sit here for another hour
Yes, we
and
could.
talk about this stuff easy.
Oh,
But
really quick if I can. So
Okay.
as I was talking just really fast on the job side, and you talk about God and closing these doors, right? So as I've worked in these different jobs or these different companies, and it seems like it just doesn't seem to work out and pan out, it's like I know my purpose, or I feel like I know my purpose, right? But like at these opportunities, I feel like God's like, nope, that's not right, JD. Close that door, you know, like he keeps doing it for me. And I'm like, all right, well, instead of going through this mud puddle again, how about you just like show me the path a little bit, like help me out,
yeah,
you know? But I guess that's part of the journey, is cutting our own path and getting to where we need to be. And so things will line up and
Yeah.
they'll come that way eventually. So
oh, it definitely will. Yeah, I believe it. So, final thoughts as we wrap this thing up. Is there one quick thing you'd like to share, JD, before we
actually, I'd
jump
like
off
to
this?
finish off with Mike and just see some other feedback or some thoughts he's got, because I know we've triggered a lot going on.
Okay.
Is what we've said too.
Cool.
Well, yeah, true enough. You know, JD, this is the first time we've met.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun hour for me to get acquainted with you and to hear your story. And I am convinced that you've got a lot of substance in your soul, that you're a good man, and that you will find your way.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with me today.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of territory. Again,
Yes.
you tend to do that in these, I think, Al. You cover a lot, and you share your experiences, your own experiences, in a very effective way that we can all learn from. And I think it's been a productive time. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me be part of this.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you guys, to the both of you,
You're very welcome.
for your time, and thank you for your kind words, Mike. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, we do call this Therapy Thursdays now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my buddy TJ kind of coined it, and we've stuck with it. It's like, yeah, these are our Therapy Thursdays, and I love it. You know, there's, the day will come here soon where we'll be in the studio every day doing this, because this is my high. I just love doing this. So.
Well, you made such progress doing this.
Yeah,
I mean, I've learned a little bit about your process and the path that you've taken to get here, and it's like you said, you don't know how it's all going to happen. You just know it is going.
Yeah,
to.
it's
And
going to
you
happen.
keep moving forward with
Yeah.
it.
Well, even like, you know, a month or so ago when we celebrated our 100th episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I
that's
would have
something.
never ever thought that was going. I mean, even when we had 20, I'm like, oh hell, we
Wow.
just made 20 episodes. Right.
Yeah,
we're
we're
kicking
rocking.
ass. And then it's like 50 seemed like it was thousands of miles away, you know, and now to see where everything's at. And again, a lot of this would not happen if it wasn't for people like yourselves to come on the show, being guest co-hosts, being guests on the show, being vulnerable and opening up part of your life, and just being honest with people, you know. And I think that's one of the things more people need to start doing. We need to be real with ourselves, and don't be ashamed.
Well, I think
You
being
know?
real with ourselves, but also too, like, a lot of people, like, doing the business themselves and dealing with people, like, sometimes you really get to see who people are.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes it's one of those things that just, like, breaks your heart, because you're like, sometimes I'm like, hey, did somebody piss in your Cheerios today? Like, I want to be that
Yeah,
guy, you know?
yeah.
But also too, you know, I mean, I've talked to people and like, why are you like that? Like, what in it was in your life that made you just, right? But I can't come out. I mean, I want to, but
Well, a kind word will put a smile on
It
someone's
will,
face.
you know?
You
And so-
never know, because again, you don't know what that person's going through.
no, absolutely,
You know?
absolutely. You
Yeah,
don't know.
You don't
but
have
like,
a clue.
But sometimes you just meet those people, and it's like, do you make it a sport to flip off as many cars as you can down the freeway? Like, I'm very confused right now, you know? Like, you keeping
Well,
tabs.
he's looking for that trophy, you know, the one that does that.
Right,
the
right.
gold arm. That's coming.
He's keeping tabs. He's got his little
Oh, I love
notepad.
it. Yeah, yeah.
80 today.
80,
Top
I got
score.
80. Guys, again, thank you for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome, Al.
Yeah, and again, thank you to all our listeners, all our plethora of sponsors, Resilience Talk Network, and Brad. Thank you guys for all your support and all your love. None of this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for all you guys and our guests and guest co-hosts. So thank you for everything, you guys. We're going to leave it as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.